Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Fear and Greed Index hits lowest since March 2020, even as Bitcoin price hits $30,500. That's the headline from Cointelegraph just this morning. That means market participants, the typical retail speculator, hasn't been this fearful in just over 2 years, and that's when the sky looked like it was falling again. Stocks started tanking amid the whole pandemic situation. Crypto immediately followed. It was supposed to be the end of the world. Bitcoin got down to $3,800. XRP was down to 11 cents. Oh my gosh, people couldn't sell it fast enough. And then XRP ended up going up about 20-fold. Just a year later, Bitcoin ended up going from about $3,800 to almost $70,000. It wasn't the end of the world, but again, when things are going down in terms of price action, it just feels to the typical retail speculator like that's going to happen forever, but it's not actually going to happen forever, is it? Unless we're all wrong, and this truly is a fad, and this goes the way of the dodo, my favorite extinct avian creature. Do you really think crypto is going to stop existing? Because I sure as hell don't. Well, I want to share with you perspective from in some institutional money, if you will, as well as perspective from macro guru Raoul Pal, who is very pro XRP. He does see it exceeding $10 in price at some point, meaning if that's right, I mean, where the hell is XRP here? I'll look at it real quick. It's at 43 cents. So if it goes up to over $10 from here, that's over a 20-fold increase. My gosh. And it's just like, so the difference between buying XRP at $1 versus 43 cents, in the scheme of things, yeah, you can still make a fortune at either price if this keeps going the direction that we think and hope that it will. But my gosh, more than double your return if you purchase closer to now as opposed to $1. Now, mind you, I'm not telling you to buy or sell or hold anything. In fact, to be clear, I don't have a financial background of any kind. I'm not offering financial advice. So definitely do not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I am just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto topics, but just as a hobby. But even though all that's true, I'm still happy to share with you my personal everyday Joe Schmo opinion, which is that this is going to be worth a fortune. I think XRP at some point is going to hit its all-time high. It is going to enter price discovery. It's just a matter of time. It's provably the case. The whole market's still moving in tandem. Won't be surprised to see XRP over $10 or 20 or 30. I'm not making specific predictions. I'm just saying if that ends up unfolding, I won't be surprised in the least. And in terms of long-term viability, XRP is one of the few cryptocurrencies that I feel very optimistic at this point is actually going to be sticking around. If you fast forward a decade, it could be here as long as it continues to be useful, even in a world where the asset class has sufficiently matured. And wait till I share you too with some of what one of my very favorite chart analysts in crypto had to say. Very optimistic that the alt season that hasn't occurred to this point, it's a coming. It's just a matter of time. And I tend to subscribe to this as well. So here's the way I'm looking at it. As long as we don't see something happen on a global scale outside of crypto, as long as we don't see something horrible happen that would just spook markets in general, not just crypto, then I suspect that we've either already seen the bottom for crypto or it's pretty close. And nobody knows for sure, and I don't pretend to either. But to me, that's what seems probable. So outside of something cataclysmic happening, I don't even know what that would be, some sort of global event, we're probably already about there. And there are a number of metrics that you can look at to come to that conclusion, not the least of which is fear. That's why, again, I'm not going to read through this Cointelegraph article, but there's a reason they're covering this story. People haven't been this fearful in over 2 years, since March of 2020 when the pandemic was hitting. Here, take a look at the Crypto Fear and Greed Index. It doesn't update again, updates once every 24 hours. It won't update again for another 1 hour and 12 minutes. But here you can see it's at 8 out of 100, indicating extreme fear. That is the lowest that it's been. That's what it hit in March of 2020. So we basically tied that. And people are at least as scared at this point, not knowing if it's the end of the world. And then from a technical perspective, it was still showing that cryptocurrencies, they're oversold. Pick your cryptocurrency. Just about all of them are oversold, whether it's Bitcoin, XRP, pick your crypto. If there's an outlier, fine. Maybe I'm just unaware of, okay. But the asset class on the whole, it's tremendously oversold. And all this fear, despite the fact that Bitcoin, at least at the time that I'm recording, is above $30,000. It's at $30,296. Market cap for the asset class down to $1.3 trillion. Bitcoin dominance been moving sideways for several days or so at 43.67%. And again, as I keep highlighting here, which is why I don't think it makes a damn bit of sense to be fearful about crypto specifically, here's the Dow Jones. Dow Jones Industrial Average over the last 30 days. Look at that chart. Now let me flip to the Bitcoin 30-day chart right now. And here you can see it looks pretty damn similar. And so I don't make the case that that Bitcoin literally follows the Dow Jones down to like the day, but I am saying when the big moves happen, the crypto asset class tends to follow. Historically, it just has. And it's the same as when you consider altcoins following Bitcoin. They do follow Bitcoin, but not down to the second, the minute, the day, the week, the month, so on and so forth. But if you zoom out on a chart, if you got human eyeballs, you can see it. And that is happening here. So things don't go down forever. They don't go up forever either. But since they don't go down forever, it doesn't make sense to be fearful here. And so who's not selling? Take a look at this headline from the Daily Hodl. CEO of $7 billion hedge fund says firm hasn't sold any crypto positions during market collapse. Well, isn't that something? So, what do you know? The smart money behaving a bit different than the typical retail speculator that's panicking every day, having trouble sleeping at night, presumably. The adults in the room are just like, yeah, okay, well, it's market cycles. We know that you little peons out there are going to be behaving like this, and we're just not going to do anything. Which is why it's kind of like my strategy. I always brag that my strategy is the most unsophisticated investing strategy on the entire planet, because my strategy is to do precisely nothing, especially when there's downward price action. But take a look at this article. The founder and CEO of Skybridge Capital says that the global investment firm is holding onto its crypto positions despite the dramatic downturn of the markets. In a new interview on CNBC, Anthony Scaramucci says that crypto is currently facing a bear market that's more challenging than usual. And so I'll just say this. There are a lot more people today saying, hey, Bitcoin's in a bear market, has been for some time, compared to about half a year ago when the only person I could find that was saying that was the blockchain backer. That he was the only one, and now everybody seems to have come around to his way of thinking. And that, not literal everybody. There are still some analysts. In fact, the next one that I'm going to be, well, not literally the next one, but one of the ones I'm going to highlight in this video, if memory's serving me anyway, I believe that he thinks that this was, if anything, just an extended market cycle. So some people do still think that this isn't actually a technical definition of a bear market, and people, they all use different definitions, so y'all fight amongst yourselves. But he does think that this is more, if anything, just a little bit of a pause, if you will, but that Bitcoin's going to blast off into another new all-time high, and we will have ultimately alt season. So I do follow some analysts that think that it really is more so just a lengthening cycle rather than a bear market, but I still wanted to highlight people are, by and large, coming around to what the blockchain backer was saying like half a year ago. Anyway, here's the quote from Anthony Scaramucci running this hedge fund. He said, in March of 2020, when Bitcoin got down between $4,000 and $6,000, there was $70 billion lost. Think of the magnitude of what we're talking about. Now it's an $800 billion correction. I think the good news about that, frankly, is because this is decentralized, you don't have any systemic risks. I just want you to imagine that kind of hit to the banking community, how dramatic that would be, and what the Federal Reserve would need to do. It's just an example of decentralization being what I would describe as less fragile than the core system, end quote. Isn't that funny to think about? So that massive correction, it was $70 billion. We could now say only $70 billion when Bitcoin cratered down to a little below $4,000. Now you're having, excuse me, you're having a similar correction in terms of percentage, but in terms of dollars, it's much more massive. It's not 70 billion this time. It's an $800 billion correction. You know, it's just insane to think about this. But this will look like nothing in the future because, you know, this asset class is going to end up being tens of trillions, if not substantially higher than that. I won't be surprised to see the asset class over $100 trillion, which is why seeing everybody panic today, it's just going to look so silly in hindsight. It's just not going to. This is the earliest of days. I think the people that are smart about this, invest wisely, spread out your risk, invest in a bunch of different things. I think those people and the people that just wait a sufficiently long period of time and don't panic sell and don't chase tops, I think those are the people that are going to make it. And anybody can do it. That's the most empowering, awesome message about all of this. The everyday person from modest means can achieve life-changing wealth in crypto. I think that's the most powerful message out there. But you have to control yourself. None of it's guaranteed, and it's not like there's no risk. Anyway, piece continues. Despite the massive losses of the current correction, Scaramucci remains optimistic that the prices of crypto assets will recover. He references similar corrections in equities markets in the early 2000s. And here's another quote from him now. We can draw historical context back to March 2000, where we saw the NASDAQ go from something like 5,000 and change down to 2,300. I think these assets are at distressed level prices. They are technically oversold. And so we haven't sold one position, frankly. Folks, I've been delivering this message for days on end at this point, and I think repetition is important, especially when we're in scarier times like this. What have I been saying? I've been saying that's provably the case, that we're at the technical definition of technically oversold, right? That's why he said technically oversold. And as a result, do you think he's panicking? He hasn't sold a damn thing for his $7 billion fund. Hasn't sold a damn thing. And then he continues. Here's the rest of the quote from him. Still, our core fund has about 18% exposure to Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I'll just point out to people, if you bought this stuff when we did back in October of 2020, these coins were trading at $18,000 or so for Bitcoin, $700 or so for Ethereum. If you take a long-term perspective and sort of zoom out, you can do very well in the cryptocurrency market. So pause. This is what I keep saying. I have the same confidence in XRP that I had over 4 years ago in terms of it hitting its all-time high, entering price discovery, hitting some of these higher price levels that people have hypothesized it may hit. All of that seems perfectly reasonable, but it doesn't happen overnight. It certainly does not. But like, he's saying the same damn stuff that I've been saying. It's not rocket science here. If you just zoom out and you just be patient, it comes. All right? But the short-term price action has nothing to do with whether or not such a bet will come to fruition on it. The short-term price action, let me say that again. The short-term price action is not an indication of whether or not a cryptocurrency is going to zero, or whether it's not it's going to go be worth a fortune in the future. The short-term price action doesn't indicate any of those things. It's not even about fundamentals. It's not about long-term viability. The short-term price action in an immature asset class, immature market, no, of course it's not about that. It has nothing to do with that, and people just don't get that. But if you can just understand these things, you'll start to get why it doesn't make sense to be afraid. And then he wrapped up by stating, listen, everybody is a short-term investor when you have losses like this. That cliche that I'm a long-term investor until I have short-term losses. And so I understand the panic in the markets, end quote. I like that. That's funny. I'm a long-term investor until I have short-term losses. Yeah. Isn't that like the typical retail speculator? Oh, hell yeah, it is. Now here's this headline from the Daily Hodl. Macro guru Raoul Pal unveils a portfolio update amid carnage in crypto and global financial markets. And again, as a friendly reminder here, he does firmly believe that XRP, more likely than not, is going to end up going past the $10 price level. The piece reads as follows. A popular crypto investor is weighing in on the path forward as most asset classes reel from several rough weeks in the markets. In a new interview with the Bankless podcast, Real Vision CEO Raoul Pal says that in addition to maintaining his holdings, he bought into stocks that might have long-term growth potential. So folks, think about this. Not only is he not selling, he's buying stuff. And not just crypto. He's certainly, two thumbs up on crypto from him, obviously. But he's buying stuff too as everybody's panicking. Because again, it's not just crypto markets that are down. Pick your market. It's probably down. Pick your asset class. Here's the quote from him. I've not sold a single thing. I've started to average in on the growth tech stocks going into this carnage, because if I'm right, and this is a super trend, a super cycle, then you want to be owning this stuff for the long run. Which companies are going to succeed or fail? We don't know. So you buy baskets of stuff, much like you might do if you wanted to capture the movement in crypto. Crypto's the same. If you believe that the network adoption continues, then this is when you should be buying. End quote. Well, how about that? I tell you, there's something about these people that come from institutional backgrounds that just seem to understand that when it's very scary out there, it makes sense to buy. And in this case, that's what he's been doing, right? So that's why, I get it. I'm able to set aside the emotion. I happen to be good at that. That's my superpower, basically. All right, my superpower is emotions are stupid, so I don't have them. That's it. And as a result of that, though, I can just take a pretty rational approach to analyzing all of this. And I'm not a chart analyst. I'm not interested in getting into all of that stuff, but just kind of looking at the broader macro view and contemplating what might occur. And I think it's fun to talk to other people about this and how might things unfold. What might a mature market look like? What's going to make cryptocurrencies have long-term viability? Like, that's all fun to analyze. That I really enjoy. That's what's really fun to me about just being in the crypto space, in addition to the opportunity for life-changing wealth, obviously. So that's why I look at XRP. I'm like, well, it's genuinely being adopted. Real-world use case using enterprise-grade software. I think everything's oversold here. Barely any people on the planet have ever held a cryptocurrency for any period of time. I think that's going to change massively. I think crypto is going to be commonplace if you fast forward X number of decades into the future, whatever it is. It's just going to be part of daily life. Just like fiat currency today is part of daily life. It's just going to be there. And I don't know exactly how everything's going to unfold, what's it going to look like, but it's going to be big. And we're here early. And that's also why I do think it makes sense to diversify also in crypto. And I do hold close to 30 different cryptocurrencies out there. I think most of them are going to go away. But at some point, I will start taking profits as they move to the upside. At this point, I'm still just waiting for alt season. I think it's going to happen, whether you consider this the beginning of a new market cycle or the extension of the existing market cycle, whichever way you look at it, I don't care. I still think there's going to be alt season. People are behaving in irrational, erratic fashion. I'm not seeing that stop. I'm still counting on that human behavior to persist. So I think it's coming. The whole market's still moving in tandem. You don't think that's going to come? I don't know when there's going to be a flushing out of the system. I do believe that too, one day, but I don't see any signs of it now. So why would I think anything but what's most probable at this point is that there will be, at some unknown point in the future, an alt season. That seems to make sense to me. Now, let me share with you what one of my very favorite chart analysts, Credible Crypto, had to say. He shared the following with his 332,000 followers. The argument for $13,000 to $14,000 Bitcoin on the premise that past major bear markets have led to 80% declines from the top makes a major assumption that $65,000 was the cycle top. It's the same assumption people made at $30,000 in June of 2021 before we rallied to a new all-time high of $65,000 3 months later. Yeah, good point. And so that's why it'd be curious to see who actually is right here. Is this an extension? Is this the beginning of a new bear market? Have we bottomed out? If this is the bear market, are we actually at the bottom? Well, from Credible Crypto's perspective, he seems to think that the cycle is just going to continue. And in terms of 80% decline, not if we're not done. That's the message that he's conveying here. And he does think that things are going to continue to move to the upside. And take a look at this too, because this goes back to the idea that I was saying. It's like, and again, I'm not telling you to buy or sell or hold, do whatever the hell you want, don't matter to me. But for those that are looking to expand their position, even though I don't know for sure if we're at the bottom, nobody does know for sure. That's the honest truth. There's been such a massive pullback. There's only so much lower that it would go, unless you're the type like Peter Schiff that says it's all going to zero, which is completely nonsensical. That's not going to happen. But take a look at what Credible Crypto had to say. He paints an excellent picture because we're already down over 50% compared to as an asset class, where crypto was. We're down over 50%. How much more of a pullback do you need to have before you think it starts to make sense to dollar cost average in if you're the type that wants to increase your position in crypto? And so Credible Crypto said the following. Crypto market cap topped at $3 trillion so far. If you think that's the top of crypto, what the F are you even still doing here? LOL. And if you don't think that's the top, then why look for lower? We are at $1.3 trillion market cap. If we're not going to zero, and we are going higher than $3 trillion next, you do the math. Exactly. So in a general sense, that's how I look at this too. What the hell does it matter? Anytime you buy anything, there's almost a 100% chance that at some unknown point in the future, it will be worth less than what you paid for it. It may happen the next day, it may happen the next minute, the next hour, or it could happen 6 months later if there's a massive pullback after things are climbing or anything to that effect. Who cares? Since you don't know, that's the point. And then there was this from Credible Crypto. He had a lot of good stuff out here. He wrote, expecting a choppy grind up on Bitcoin over the next couple months as dominance bleeds down a bit and our market bottom is formed. Still expecting a major rise in dominance after that as Bitcoin rallies to new all-time high and a major drop in dominance after that as alts play catch-up as Bitcoin tops. So folks, translation, alt season's coming. So he does think, so bottom's forming here, however long it takes, a couple months, whatever it ends up being. Bitcoin dominance At that point, when it starts going towards its new all-time high, its dominance is going to increase. But then altcoin, it's going to be their time to shine. Altcoins take over. Bitcoin dominance will then decrease as alts play catch up. And Bitcoin dominance, don't be surprised to see it, wouldn't be surprised if it gets down to the 25 to 30% mark. Credible Crypto said that in the past. It dipped as low as 35% at the end of the last market cycle as altcoins were taking off. Still coming. Still coming, my friends. The whole market moves in tandem. As far as I'm concerned, it's just a matter of time. That's my bet anyway. And then there was this from Credible Crypto. Looking forward to being bearish AF after this wave up over $100,000. So he's talking about Bitcoin, of course. Looking forward to being bearish after Bitcoin hits $100,000 that I'm expecting completes. Seeing the way sentiment is now during a mid-cycle correction means the correction that corrects the entire bull cycle from $3,000 to $100,000 plus is going to be absolutely brutal. And so he does believe that this is nothing more than a mid-cycle correction in a lengthening cycle. So he doesn't think that it's the typical 4 years that we've seen anymore. That's what I'm seeing from him anyway. So if the bottom really was the mid-December 2018, it was December 15th, 2018, that was the bottom for Bitcoin. That was the actual bottom, right around $3,000. I think it was a hair higher technically, maybe it was $3,100, whatever it was. So you go from that, and then he's saying that the top he's anticipating before this is all said and done to be over $100,000. And he said he wouldn't be surprised if it's more like $150,000. Yeah, an 80% correction from there is going to be brutal, but even that may end up being higher than where we are at right now in terms of the price of Bitcoin. And for XRP, my gosh, it's just so oversold. My gosh, what an incredible opportunity. And my bags are packed. I'm not buying any more XRP because it's my largest holding. It's my favorite crypto, but I'm not buying any right now. I made a recent purchase, as I've shared a few times in recent videos I've mentioned. And I'm going to be buying more. If price stays around here or goes lower, yeah, I'm going to continue to buy, just dollar cost averaging in on some other projects, and I've talked about that. But yeah, XRP, that's the one that I am most interested in for so many reasons that I've been articulating on this channel for years, and I still believe that we're going to have that pop at some point. But I'm taking a long-term approach. You got to be patient. The people that are impatient, those are the ones that never make the life-changing wealth. That's just how this works, folks. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.